Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Climate Change. I'm especially delighted to welcome Dr. Aditi Haldar, who is the South Asia head for the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI. And we've been planning to have her over in the Azim Premji University campus, Bangalore, for a very long time. So it's a great delight to welcome you here, Aditi.
Thank you, Harini. It's a pleasure always to come back to universities and feel the energy of the youth.
Right.
Thank you.
So Aditi has a very interesting background. She has a PhD in environmental sciences in pollution, actually, from Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi. Yeah. And we just realized when we were having a conversation that we both did our PhDs at the same time. We completed in 1997.
Yeah.
And after that, I find it very interesting that you went into industry. You did a lot of work with various sectors, right? From textile to computers to manufacture of various kinds. And then moved to GRI to run this reporting initiative, which is very large. And I will ask you what GRI does so you can tell people, because many people might not be aware of what GRI does.
Yeah.
But I also found it very interesting when I looked at your bio and it said you're a musician and a dancer and a mother. So I think there are many conversations I want to have with you in this Let's Talk Climate Change series.
Yeah. Look forward to it.
Fantastic.
Look forward.
Yeah. So can I just ask you, when we begin, where did you grow up?
I was born in Kolkata.
Huh.
And my childhood until my higher secondary school, schooling days, I was in Kolkata. But my connection has been very deeply ingrained with the village. Because every holiday and vacation, we would go from the city of Kolkata to maybe 25-30 kilometers away. And we would be there in our hometown where my father actually was born and grew up. And we would enjoy nature and people and farming and getting, plucking fruits and, going into the water, swimming, catching fish. So I think all that remained a cherished, treasure in me from the beginning. So I could connect till now, when I feel a grain of rice is fallen on the floor, I pick up and eat, because I could always get how much hard work has gone in to get one grain of rice onto my plate on the table. So this is how I grew up. And after that, I moved into, Delhi because of my father's transfer. And I got into environmental science, not because that I knew about environmental science as a subject, because it was very new that time.
Exactly.
I actually missed out the admission timing because of the transfer. So all the colleges closed. And there was a professor living next to our home in Delhi. And my father became very good friends. And he told that, all the colleges admissions are over now. So what should we do? And she said, okay, I'm teaching in a college. Why don't she come? Show her results. So we showed the result. And then I had an interview with the principal of the college. And she invited me to study in that college, looking at my extracurricular activity, which is about my music, my dance, and all the things, recitation, writing stories, painting. She said, we need students like you who can bring in diversity to education. So that is how I enter into a college, and I could never imagine that, this. So I had a choice between studying normal science subjects.
This was BSc.
BSc or environmental science with, chemistry.
And Delhi had majors, single major.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And then I said, I will go for environmental science, because this is something I feel, I don't know what it is, but I think I'll, enjoy studying it. So that was my criteria on my own. My parents were not there with me during all this happening. I just signed the papers, and the principal said, come over from tomorrow, class starts at 8:30 in the morning, you have to take a due special.
Okay.
That is how my, beginning happened with environmental science. I went and told my father. My father said, now no medical entrance, no engineering, and now you're choosing environmental science. So, okay, it's up to you. I don't know anything about this. So I said, okay. So it was actually a journey of, not knowing anything, but some intuition was telling me that I would enjoy studying environmental science. So my graduation happened in environmental science with chemistry.
Which is the college name?
This is Maitrey College.
College in Delhi.
There were only 3 colleges in Delhi University which was giving this, and we were, I think, the second batch.
Right, okay.
So,
which makes sense. When I'm thinking of we must be around the same batch. I started my BSc in 89. So when I did it in Bangalore University, then there were, again, so I did it in St. Joseph's College in Bangalore, and there was, I think there were 3 colleges again in Bangalore which offered environmental science, but I did microbiology. And I'm a great believer in serendipity like you, because I think I landed up in ecology in a very similar set of accidents, and not with a desire initially, but it sounded very interesting. It sounded like a place where I think one could contribute to what was going on around us, and I think that works out very well sometimes. Life takes you in these directions.
I want to share that I think the teachers can really mold a student's life, and I'm ever grateful to all the teachers I had, especially in my graduation. When I saw these teachers, they were doing their PhDs and they were teaching in the college. They actually taught so much, about the ecosystem and life, the connection of life to each other, a plant and an animal and an insect and human beings. I think that changed my entire perspective about career. But often I felt when I used to go to laboratories that if I put myself only into the laboratory, then I will not be employed. I don't know from where I understood that if I am only in the laboratory, I will not be employed. So I always felt that I have to do something which will be beneficial for human beings. I have to go out of the laboratory. I have to go out of the university. So what I did was I always looked at attending seminars and reading other books, going to different libraries. And in the 3rd year, we had a subject on the pollution of industry. So we had to study different kind of industrial sectors, its whole business process, and then at each of the business, value chain, what are the environmental implications? That gave me a lot of clarity on how maybe, pharmaceuticals are created, how coal is actually used for, generating electricity, how maybe metals are processed, and each of these value chain under every sector, I understood the environmental interactions.
This was in BSc?
This was in
Such
BSc.
a far-reaching course. In 97?
Yes.
I mean, no, and this would have been
88.
88.
87, 88.
87, 88. Huh.
And then there were, also chemistry. The laboratory was also so good that I could understand the chemical reaction which will happen, and what is pollution. How is it that if I drop something on the soil, then the leaching happens, the water, runs off, and then it creates a damage to the ecosystem. So I think my graduation was really a blessing. And I still cannot forget the teachers who taught me everything about zoology, microbiology, biochemistry, physiology, and then of course, all the things about the botany and the zoology and its interconnectivity. I think that made me become very confident. So when I appeared for my JNU admission, I didn't have to prepare anything. I just went and gave the exam. And that time also there were 2 choices. I could actually go in for my teaching profession, doing B.Ed in Delhi University. And I got the first rank there in the admission. And then I got my, post-graduation offer from JNU. So I chose JNU. So that's how. And after post-graduation, there also I met wonderful teachers. And after that, I did my PhD.
If I'm not mistaken, at that time, JNU had 2 biology related programs. There was an MSc in life sciences,
Life sciences,
and there was the MSc in environmental
correct,
science. Right,
correct.
exactly. That's what I remembered, because
Yeah.
I had also applied for
Okay.
the masters, and then
Master.
Delhi was too far away. I got into Indian Institute of Science for an integrated
Okay.
PhD,
Okay.
and so I went straight
Okay,
into
okay.
you know, like
Nice.
you, Delhi was home for me, Bangalore was
Yeah.
home,
Okay.
and so it was
So we
easy.
had to meet now.
We had to meet now, exactly. Very
Yeah.
interesting. And then, what was your PhD in?
My PhD was in pollution chemistry actually, and this was on soil heavy metal speciation.
Okay.
So that is also a a story, because it was a CSIR and Imperial College of London. There was a joint project going on under my guide, Professor D.K. Banerjee.
Okay.
And he said, why don't you take this subject? You will get an exposure to the chemistry department, environmental chemistry department, Professor Farago, who will be interested in the research. So I said, why not? And then we decided on how to go about. So I actually chose the whole of Delhi soil into 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer grid, and soil was collected from this 2 kilometer grid to make it representative.
Okay.
So if I am not mistaken, there were about 624 samples.
Wow.
And when I was doing the heavy metal speciation, all the chemical laboratory based, the practicals, what happened was that Dr. Farago, she said that, why don't you send the samples also here
to London?
To London.
Okay.
We will do all the speciation study as you are doing there, and then we'll compare, and you will get better results.
Right, because the equipment was obviously higher precision.
Yeah. So all my samples went to London, and the results came back, So then out of that, of course, different interpretations of how land use in Delhi, let's say, where there is more vehicular movement, there is more lead in the soil, right? Where there is industrial, areas, there was a lot of chromium. And then, I went into other areas to look at the land use pattern and the heavy metal speciation. So even in the speciation also, what is more toxic to human life and any other lives depends on the species of that particular heavy metal. So I think throughout,
I mean, whether it's more positively charged or that kind of a thing.
Exactly. Yes, so that gave me a lot of understanding that chemistry is not just laboratory.
Yes.
Chemistry is also about how it interacts with life. Like with my physiology in my own body, or anyone who is living or drinking the water running through that soil, or some vegetation that is grown in that soil.
Exactly.
When you consume that fruit and those leaves, then what will happen to the body? So from very early on, I think that connectivity was a big exposure to me and a big blessing.
Sounds very fascinating, because I think, as we are thinking now, recently, just 3-4 days ago, my colleague Seema and I had gone with other colleagues that work with a lot of informal settlements in Bangalore, where Azim Premji Foundation is trying to see how to improve lives on the ground. And one of the things we were thinking of is, can we suggest rooftop vegetation, because they all have rooftops, and many of the women are extremely skilled with gardening. But the challenge, I was just saying, is in many of these areas, you have vehicular pollution, and therefore you'll have lead coming in, not even from the soil, but if it is a pots from the air, right? And what are these people going to do? They're already in a very fragile health state, and then if lead enters their body, or other kinds of heavy metals enter their body.
Yeah, but I think that those vegetations will be much better than what we purchase from the market.
From the market, sadly, I know, and we don't even know the quality of what we purchase.
Because I'm sure the terrace gardening, the soil and the water will be less polluted than what
the rest of the city is.
Yeah, rest of the city.
But I'm just again picking up on that point. I'm thinking how far-reaching a study this would have been in 97. Now we are all aware of how polluted our cities are, but you were finding signals in 97. Which means Delhi was polluted even then, and we should have done something to stop it then.
And the river, which carried all the burden of pollution, from the unorganized sector, I think it said a lot, from the research. we could publish papers. So that was I think a good moment, but I always felt that I have to also go further than this research. How do I bring in some solution? So, okay, from the research, I could understand the problem, but where is the solution lying?
Exactly.
And that drove me into. So before my PhD paper was submitted, I was offered a job, in WWF and a great organization called Development Alternatives.
Yes, right.
So, so I had an interview, and there they were doing something called Community-Led Environment Action Network. So when they saw my profile of having experience on the ground, working in factories and looking at the sampling and also in the laboratory, I actually could contribute to a program called Community-Led Environment Action Network, which started in schools.
Okay.
So my professional, I think the job part started with, going to schools, empowering the school teachers about air pollution and water pollution, looking at, water quality test, small tester, kit, and air sampling kit. So it's called the Jaltara and the Pavantara.
Nice.
So that the children along with the teachers, they would go to different parts of their neighborhood, and from the sample results would come, we would interpret, and then an additional thing I did was that when the results came, we would take the children to meet the Resident Welfare Association and also sometimes Industrial Association. So there was a lot of
everyone
listens. Children, but it was in the beginning it was difficult because now I think the environmental science subject has become integrated, into the course. That time it was an additional thing that teachers would do it from respective schools. But after I joined the program and became the coordinator of the program, it grew a lot. So, I think there were about 10 schools in the beginning, and then it went to many schools and many cities of India. So, till date, that program is running. And during that, I think I got also exposed to different industrial sectors. So, I started with electroplating sector, then brick industry to look at different kind of technology which will become less polluting.
That was all with DA?
All with DA, And after that, we looked at, how townships can become more environmentally responsible. So, their water treatment, their waste management and all of that. Then we moved to hotel industry, where hotels have a lot to play in the cities. So we wanted to actually bring to them environmental management system from every departments, like their F&B, their housekeeping, their washing, it's a lot of environmentally intensive industry, right? And within cities. So that is how we did that, and that led to a lot of work with other sectors as well. And after that, I actually joined Confederation of Indian Industry. There, the diversity of industrial sectors increased, and I started with cleaner production and environment management system.
When would this be? Which year?
This was in 2003 onwards.
2003,
2003 to 2009, I was with CII, and then we started the Center of Excellence for Sustainable Development.
In CII?
Yeah, in CII. So, a lot of work with the automotive sector, a lot of work with cement sector, with industrial estates, construction sector. So, that's where, a very big dimension of my career is not just, communities and children and environmental, quality test, but also really looking at their part of the challenge, because big industries have different kind of challenges, meeting, being compliant, but also within the organization, how can they steer the whole aspect of sustainability to the top management, So those were the days when everyone wanted that how can they integrate social management system and environmental management system, and also showcase how by doing environmental and social management the business can also grow. So it was a very challenging period. You can say the word sustainability also started during that
time,
time,
exactly. It was
so
otherwise a very, so I'm thinking of two things right now. One is, I think there must be very few people in India who would have this kind of an experience with the lab, communities, teachers, schools, and industry, because it's a very different sector. Like you say, people go into the NGO civil society world and they stay there, or they go into the industry world and they stay there, and that's really a tragedy, because the two worlds need to talk along with government, and that conversation does not happen.
So, so that thing is still going on, with industry and governments, regulators. That is going on. One sector which I feel that it is very, very important is when I started working with townships. I always had the desire that the townships are very small. It's in a controlled, it's like a, what do you say, like an aquarium, right? Controlled by the industry itself. So you could bring in many changes, and communities living inside the industrial township are also, they would listen, they would do it. But I always wanted to take this, in a much larger way with the municipalities and the cities.
Right.
That is where the main hurdle came. And till today, I still think that cities have to change. The way we live in our own houses, the kind of building design, the kind of, the water drainage maybe, or each house contributing to pollution every day, and climate change every day, our vehicular pollution that we do. So I think I did a full circle of looking at, going from the very micro to the policy level work, back to the industries, and then now I feel that it has to come back to communities and individuals. That is where maybe we are complacent. We are scared of ourselves. We don't want to change, but we want to kind of think that, the government has to do everything.
Somebody should do something. We are not going to do something, but somebody has to solve our problems.
That's where I am now, in this phase of my professional, personal, I think, stage. And I have a very deep, what should you say, I think belief that I can still do something, with bringing this change in individuals' thinking process. That I have no one to blame. It is me who is making the causes, and I have to bear the the effects, right? So my everyday goes like, when I take a car, I feel how much of pollution I'm going to actually, emit, right? Can I do like a, carpool, or can I take a mass transit? Of course, my comfort has to be there. And then the house that I live in, we've tried to make it in a way that the materials are environment friendly, the design is environment friendly. We are not dependent on air conditioning too much. Luckily, I'm married to an architect who also believes in that. So
very useful.
So 2 years back, I made another home in Kolkata, in the suburbs of the main Kolkata city, and there also we used a lot of environment friendly materials. Even the construction throwaway materials were used to make staircases. Entire house actually runs on the renewable energy, which is a solar power. I'm cooking on solar power, and I don't use any toxic chemicals for my everyday cleaning and washing and taking a bath. So I think this is where I am, but I feel something is missing, and that's why when I come to universities, I feel I can reach out to the young minds who can also change their life as well.
Absolutely. So this is a very good segue to ask, and I will come back to GRI, but I want to ask you, you pointed to a challenge in industries. So let's say young people who are getting into industries, in the growing industrial sector, which needs people on sustainability, I find a lot of them who take CSR jobs or environmental sustainability officer jobs, and they're always struggling with their jobs seem limited to telling people to switch off the lights, put off your computer, and organize talks on World Environment Day. And it's the challenge of top management is also very well aware of the sustainability challenges, but their day-to-day business has to be about the profit line. And so this struggle is often there. So what do you think for young people entering this field, many of whom will land up in, so there are other challenges. With the civil society, you know the other challenges, that they want to do sustainability work and they often have the mandate to do long-term work, but they're constrained by funding. So you're going project to project. So how do they navigate these things?
I think, so I would like to talk about three things, which this is my perception. One is, I think, the capacity of everyone. So a lot of extra study needs to be done to get this, opening of the mind, and not just, get a, like a rank or, marks in an university and think that, okay, so I've got this rank and now I have to be employed by the best employer. That is one part, but I think beyond this, lot of interdisciplinary study needs to be done, to build the capacity. The second point around capacity is that
so interdisciplinary study of what kind should they do?
So they should understand about social systems, about culture, about history. We have lots to learn from Indian history.
And they're technology focused. Exactly.
Lot of science which is there in India. We are not actually reading about them. We have forgotten them. Even simple things like food habits. They have changed so much. And that is causing a lot of environmental degradation. So things of that sort, history, geography, economics, I think everyone should study if they want to really grow in sustainability. And a bit of science about, the physiology and the biochemistry of human body, and also bodies of other, categories. That is very important. And so that is one part. That's the capacity of the individual. The second thing about capacity is that, capacity can grow when I work with you, with him. So our collective capacity is much larger than my own capacity.
Exactly.
So I feel these days, not during my parents when they were parenting me, is to say that you have to, do very well. Of course, they said they have to do. But I see now parents are very competitive. They want to direct their children to just, outshine everyone. And this is where I think the difficulty comes in managing their own growth. I feel that their capacity should be on how to get this collective capacity.
I see a lot of international schools which say that their job is to produce leaders. And I keep wondering, if everybody is a leader, you'll be a leader of a one-man army or a one-woman army.
But leadership is also about having this collective capacity.
Exactly. Right? And you work with people, not just as everyone only wants to lead. Who's going to do the collective?
And the leader is actually the person not seen always, to be standing, right? A leader is a person who may be behind everyone to motivate and inspire, right? So that is one, the capacity. Number two, I think the connection. I think children and, people like you or maybe me as a parent, we should direct children or lead them to having connection with other lives and friends who bring in positivity. So that, I think, is the only monitoring we need to do as looking at our future, of how they are growing as good human beings. So this connection is very important. Connection to be having friends who can bring that positivity into their life, create value together. So capacity, number two, connection. And the third is, I think, the desire of contribution is very important. So I don't know from where I was sharing with you my, my school and college days. I always wanted to do something, for others, and I didn't know how to go about. So I just managed and, moved. But I feel if children can be aware of, contribution. Contribution meaning that many times we always, like we were discussing, that we always wait for what would the government do, right? How can the government or maybe the banks or maybe my employer can do more for me? If we can just turn it around and say that, how can I grow up and contribute to my country? I do not wait for my country to give to me, but I can contribute to my country. I think these three things are what I think the youth of today, who will be the decision makers of tomorrow, if they can bring in this and integrate them in their own way, wherever they live, it's not necessary that everyone needs to be only in India, but wherever they are,
contribute to where you are.
Contribute to wherever you are, bring in value proposition. Even in, when they are in a job, I think if they start thinking about how they can contribute to that employer, they will get back much more.
Exactly.
No one can stop.
No one can stop. I was telling my daughter very recently that life is not so much about I have strength, I'm bad at this, I'm weak at this. It's more that life will throw you so many opportunities. Sometimes your luck is bad, sometimes your luck is good, sometimes your luck matches the opportunity. But the people who move ahead are exactly people who not talking first about what I get, but what I can give. And second is when life knocks you down, who gets up and keeps walking.
Yes.
Because I think that persistence and that persistence comes from the joy of connection that you talk about. One thing we have seen is post the pandemic, young people have somewhere lost that. Those years were very disruptive for them. It fragmented their sense of connection, and they're really searching for how to get connection back in their lives. So as educators, I think that's one thing we see. And fortunately, we're also seeing the positive that as time together in person is increasing, this connection is coming back.
So I think we have to make some, very conscious decision. One of the, the biggest poison, I would say, if I can use the term, is actually, speed.
Yes.
So speed, why? Because, for example, we have all got used to using our mobile phones. We want to get an information, click.
Immediately, exactly.
No one takes pain to go to the library, or to search, volumes of books, go through the pages and read, right? So I think speed has become very important. We also are seeking for, gratifications, like we all need likes in our LinkedIn or in our Facebook or Instagram or whatever, right? So I think this speed is what I think we need to really reflect, and that is what bothers me. For example, even in our food, let's say, every day we have to have 3 meals, 4 meals. We are all looking for ways on how food can be prepared very quickly. How can I order food very quickly?
Exactly.
And that is our, maybe, I don't need to go to the market every day. I can buy and freeze them. This is what is actually the main difficulty, that how do we manage speed? We are not being pushed by others to just give something, do it and give it,
So Richard Lew was, have you heard of nature deficit disorder?
No.
So there was an American psychologist called Richard Lew. In the 1970s and 80s, he was looking at the US, which was going through the transition India is going now, because parents were working, children were looking at the TV, and they were getting, not on the phone, but the same instant gratification. And he said they're suffering from attention deficit disorder. And that was because he said it's a nature deficit disorder. Because you sit with nature, nature is slow, like you're talking about your childhood. Slow rhythm, slow pace, your brain calms down, your life is, more meditative.
Because our body is made to actually work in certain speed, rhythm, right? Exactly. That rhythm. So if we are, if we are away from, let's say, the circadian rhythm, the sun, wakes up and falls asleep, right? And what we are doing is we wake up when the lights are on.
Exactly.
And we want to, work in the night time with all the lights on. So how do you think that our vitamin D and the calcium will be all okay? So I see young generation, they are all hospitalized or given, injections of vitamin D and vitamin, B deficiency. So it is this this speed and this, being away as a trajectory from this natural way of life.
Yes. So on that, I want to pick up again back to your music and dance, because you said
Okay.
you got into college because of your extracurricular activities. And again, one of the things that concerns us, we have a liberal studies undergraduate program where the students do a lot. So the humanities students have to do some science, science students have to do some social science and humanities. But we also have courses which we call creative expressions. You can do carpentry or music or theatre, and we feel that's really important. And Indian education system especially is moving away from this. So I wanted to ask you, what do you feel now looking back at so many years, 30 years of a career? How do you feel your early training, whether you do, I don't know if you still do music or dance, but even whether you do or not, how has it shaped you as an individual? And again, if you're looking at younger people listening to this, what would you feel are the importance of expressing oneself in creative ways?
I think first of all, the social side of music and art is very important. So children from my childhood, I think I was 4 when I was introduced to the guitar. I had a baby guitar. And then of course, I went to the school to dance with very senior, students also.
Kathak or?
No, Bharatnatyam.
Bharatnatyam,
Yeah.
oh, how interesting, okay.
So I think that social, connection with other people became very important.
So the social aspect of music and dance, which is nobody has mentioned this before, but
it's
you're
a
so
social
right.
aspect. And then the teacher, showing the skills of the body, how you can use the power of your own body. In dance, I learned this, and in music, I learned how I can use the power of my mind, the concentration, the ability to imagine and express. So in my dance, I was expressing with my fingers, my eyes, my feet, right? But in my music, I was expressing through the movement of my hand only. So this coordination of the mind and the body, I could really feel that
it roots you in your body, it roots your mind in something.
I
very
think
physical.
that helped me give a lot of dignity to my own self, that I have to take care of myself, And I would really thank my dad. He always said that don't leave music, don't leave dancing, take care of your body, do yoga and all of that, whatever you study or wherever you work. So that was I think I was blessed.
I've been
to
thinking
get
of that
this.
very recently. My mother is 88 and she still plays the veena, and she says all through the times of life when it's been the most depressing, or now she has health problems, the knee might get even more locked when you play the veena, but she says she actually feels physically better because it's a mental stress relief. And again, I think we should teach young people to feel embodied in their body. And that requires something like this.
And every note that I played in my guitar, I used to play classical, Hindustani classical on the guitar, Hawaiian guitar. So every note that I played, I think it resonated somehow with the universe, and it could be like even, the birds, singing, or even the rustling sound of the leaves brushing against each other. I wish I could transform all that into music. So I think it is also a very important thing, that how could I get all these senses become so what should I say, more alert, versus my school friends who only lived in the city. It was my connection to the village and nature. I think I wish all parents could give their children, or the growing children who are here, to take some opportunity to go to the village, go to the forest, spend some time, do some work with those communities,
Because we all had grandparents in the village. And now nobody has that. All the grandparents are in the city.
So if we can somehow get some curriculum, even in your university, where children who are, mostly grown in cities, they can go back and work with villagers and in the forest communities, and maybe empower them, teach them that they have much better things here, which we do not put a number to. And I would like to come back to GRI here, that, the measurements that we do on our environmental impacts, we actually forget how to measure the the value of the ecosystem.
Exactly.
Or the value of the social system, right?
To price nature, to conserve it, it's going to be limited. But we do. So all our students have, for instance, our masters in development, they have 3 things. They do an immersion. Many of them go to the village for the first time and learn about how people live in the 70% of India that we don't see. Then they do a field project which is an internship with a development organization, guided. Then they do a research project where they spread their wings a bit and develop and design their own thing. Now they've decided. And like you say, they might start with the idea that they, as educated people in cities, have to teach people in the village, and they'll land up realizing that they have much to learn, in fact. And if the learning goes the other way around.
That if they can document that, I think they will be able to appreciate everything.
It's life-transforming journeys.
Yeah.
But now let's get to GRI. So tell us about GRI. What does it do?
So I became interested in, so in CII, under the Center of Excellence for Sustainable Development, we were talking to businesses, all these big businesses actually, and all, of course, the small and medium enterprises in clusters, about looking at how can they really take care of environment and social issues, where there was compliance requirement and there was also a need from their international customers and investors. So this was growing, and then reporting became a very important aspect, slowly. So GRI was conceptualized in 1997. Because of a huge oil spill, and the money that got invested in that oil company was actually a pension fund money. And so that all these investors, they said that how can businesses hide all these risks which are connected to environment and social issues, and then our money is actually we've lost the money, right? So this is when GRI got conceptualized in the US, and then it came down to Europe because it grew, the popularity grew about, leadership companies, they should have a sustainability report. So that was the carrot, and it's still a voluntary initiative, but recently for the last 10 years, I think great movements have happened across the world, and many regulators, stock exchanges, investor groups, they all want to have sustainability report as one of their criteria to showcase that this company is a responsible company, and therefore our own Securities Exchange Bureau, SEBI, they also have a framework called the BRSR, and GRI remained the pioneer, and it's till today also it's globally, most of the large companies are using this, and we have many things which are also contributing to that popularity of GRI, because we go through a very good stakeholder engagement process where we always take what is the stakeholder need of a particular topic. So for example, our environmental and social topics across 31, topic standard are spread, but we do take cognizance of what is not working, what is becoming more relevant, and therefore we always go through a change, and the change is not easy. So every topical standard change takes about 1.5 years to complete. So at the moment we are working on, workers, health and safety, workers' rights, how remuneration can happen better, all those things. And then we are working on biodiversity, we are working on climate change, and we previously we worked a lot on waste and other topics, and therefore GRI remained to be important because I think we are not a prescriptive standard.
That's what I liked.
Principle-based.
You can look at a series and you can customize these indicators. So you have a mix of something that is standardized. It's not that your report is going to be different from mine, but it's customizable. It's very well thought out.
Yes. And, the main thing is that each industry can go through their own scale of operation, their land of operation, from where they are operating out of. So it changes, with the economy and the society and all that. So suppose my water consumption could be, some amounts. It doesn't mean that, another industry will report the same. So we are not actually a prescriptive, standard, but we are a standard which brings in the principle of materiality. And we say that it should all depend on the business relevance and the stakeholder relevance. Otherwise, don't get into just, reporting for the heck of it. Yeah. So this is why I think GRI has remained to be very popular. And another thing is that we are trying to look at, impact-based reporting. That is how business activities actually, cause a negative impact on the planet and the people. And this is very important. So in the recent years, there are different developments which have happened, including the IFRS, which is the, the financial reporting standard, that the ISSB actually wanted to bring sustainability. They are working from the other side on looking at how enterprises can be risk-free. If they look at the environmental and the social risk coming onto them.
Exactly.
So that's from the other side, and GRI is working from the impact side on how businesses' activities has the impact on people and planet, and how that can be actually managed to not curb down the business growth, but grow it, but be responsible for it.
Yes, I'm just struck by this because I was talking to another group of investors recently who were interested in looking at investing in sustainability space. And I was thinking, so many ways of thinking of sustainability. You've talked of two, the impact of business on sustainability, and then looking at it from a financial risk perspective. You can also look at it as an investor who's saying sustainability is going to impact the world. Where are the disruption risks where I can invest? And it's so, each of us are looking at the same problem. One sees an opportunity, one sees an impact, one sees a risk, and we all have to have conversations, I think.
Yes.
And so what I found very interesting is here's a place to bring some conversations together.
And I think you asked another question about, when children, they leave the university and they want to take up a job, they are going and joining the CSR department or maybe an environmental officer. That's all fine. But one thing they have to really remember is that ultimately it is one planet, and we all live in that planet. So what action in that company or that business or that organization is causing, maybe the positive or the negative impact on the planet and the people. If they can judge through that, I think they will enjoy, even if they are working in the CSR division, or even if they have to only look at environmental, dimension of the company's activities, doesn't matter. But how can they relate to a much larger picture of this one shared world that we have for us?
Exactly. So that's a perfect segue for me, my last question. As a parent, what are your hopes and fears for the future of the next generation? Not now as an environmental researcher, but as a parent.
Yeah. I think the fear is, what I mentioned early on when I was conversing with you, that the speed of, getting an information, the speed of gratification, the speed of being recognized, the speed of, completing a job, I think that we have to bring in some balance. So I have fear in that, because I see that in me using a lot of mobile and internet all the while, and I see my child also, my daughter also doing that. So we are in a way somewhere, as the whole human race, we are being pushed to become very speedy, so that is my fear. But we do have the potential to control, so I would hope that children, they can minimize the use of this this internet to an extent, like when they meet with friends in a cafe, all of them, they meet and they are all
On their phones.
with their phone,
Yes.
you know. Or we as a family, when we meet, are we leaving our,
Yes, exactly.
phone in the other
Yeah.
room, and coming and meeting,
Yeah.
So I think these small things are my hopes, and with only hope it will not happen, but I have to have a hope about myself that I really walk the talk. So I'm everyday challenge, how can I actually set that example, that I don't do all those practices, so that I can, leave some good actions.
Yeah.
And always as a parent, you asked a very good question. I was told once that children don't listen to you from the front, because we would be always advising them or teaching them, right? So they will not ever follow you from the front, but they do always watch you from the back. So whatever you do, you leave that footprint,
Absolutely. So they don't do what you say, they do what you do.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very true. Okay, so that, I know I said that was my last question, but I thought of something else when you, and this has been a fascinating conversation. Every time you say something, I'm thinking of something new. So as a woman leader, and in the sustainability field, especially in India, but also globally, there are very few women leaders. What do you think the importance of, if you reflect, is there anything specific that you think as a woman we bring to the sustainability arena that is important, and that's why we need more women?
Okay. So my first reaction to, saying that a woman leader, I believe that we are all humans. I don't know. From my core, I feel a man and a woman, they have equal potential to do their best,
Right.
So that is one. Yet, I also am aware of the reality of life, that women are born with certain natural things. They are endowed. For example, I feel that they are here in this world to conserve, to grow life. For example, we are actually the carrier of the the next life, right? So naturally we are conserving. We want to protect a life, and that natural tendency could be used in many ways. And I often sometimes notice that women are these days being acknowledged that they can take care of organizations much better. And I relate to this very core, what should I say, core capability of a woman to be a conservationist or a protector of life, to be used for everything that one can do as a leader. So while I do not discriminate women and men, of course the systems can discriminate, which is a very big story in itself.
Exactly.
But we, each one of us, have potential.
Exactly. And that's why I feel we need, just because of diversity. You all have our...
Exactly. And that doesn't mean a man cannot be a protector of life.
Yes,
Of
exactly.
course, they can be a protector of life in their own way, So that is where I come from.
Beautiful. Aditi, it was such a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for taking me back to my childhood and to my teenager, and then my college and university and my work. So, so hopefully, I'll be able to come back and maybe attend, your courses here. I'm, feeling the excitement already to, listen from you how you all are designing the different courses.
Absolutely. Listen and teach, and we look forward to further collaborations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Harini.